Coming up on Smart Tech today, Matthew Cassinelli and I are talking about new additions from Wyze, plus a new way to control your smart home using Amazon's inexpensive tablet, webcams, and using your phone to control all of that, plus some Apple news before we round things out with our picks of the week and suggestions for improving your office and your various spaces as we roll into the winter months here in the United States. All of that and more coming up on Smart Tech Today. Smart Tech Today is brought to you from TWiT's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? Well, LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether employees are working in the office or remotely. Visit LastPass.com/TWiT to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $30 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free. Just go to mintmobile.com/STT. And by ExpressVPN. Protect your online privacy with one click. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/STT. Welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am Mikah Sargent.
And I am Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Mikah.
Hello. Somebody just had a birthday.
Oh, yeah. Great. Just bring it up right away how old I am.
Oh, no. I mean, I wasn't going to say ages. I was just saying you had a birthday. Did it go well? I know we're all, distanced and that plays a role, but hopefully you had a good one.
Yeah, it was nice. My girlfriend made me a cake from scratch and then also filled up our living room with balloons so that I could stay young at heart. And I ran around. I posted the video on Twitter, but I just ran around the room kicking the balloons going, ee. So
it was hilarious, and I watched it like 3 times. So everybody
I've done that
a
couple of times. Honestly, I'm probably going to go in there tomorrow and stress release whichever way I need to. But
like sitting down on the balloons and
either just run around kicking them or just destroy them all or something. So we'll see.
It should be fun. What kind of cake?
It was a white cake with raspberry filling and then raspberries on top and this awesome frosting too. So it is, I've only had a little bit because it's so rich. It's brutal, but it's so good. And both things I was super happy just because I was like, especially in a pandemic, somebody did something purely for me and it was really nice. Like I totally felt just like joy at least twice in that week in like a pure way. So I was like really appreciative of my girlfriend. That was nice. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
It's good to
I'm
have
happy for you.
A good buffer against this week a little bit. So.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and hop into the show, get things a-rolling. And the first thing that we'll be talking about, Wyze, which is known for its low cost but still high quality smart home accessories, smart home products, has announced a new Wyze Cam. That's like the main camera that it produces. It is now Wyze Cam V3, meaning version 3. And this one will be shipping in December of this year. And it's $19.99 per use. So it is still a very good price. But there are some updates and upgrades, including what Wyze calls the Starlight sensor, which helps to kind of see things clearly outside whenever it is dark. So that way you can kind of be aware of what's going on outside, even in the night. It says you can see it in environments up to 25 times darker. So that's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. These seem, I think, at least for me, the major feature also seems that it's mostly interchangeable as an indoor-outdoor camera. So I think previously they sold an indoor and outdoor version, and you could get the one that's waterproof if you need it. But now it's just kind of like get the one that you need, and it should be good to go. Which seems pretty legit. Like that's kind of what I was looking for. Is I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to use it outside long term, and so having the option to move it somewhere else seems important. So I actually pre-ordered 3. Like I am putting my money where my mouth is with the smart camera thing, because it's something I've been looking for a long time. I got like the front porch, backyard, or back door, and then I think I'm going to do one in my office just because. I don't know if that's weird. We'll see. Just to kind of mess around with it, and maybe even they have some cool improved time lapse features and stuff like that. So it is a camera. I might use it for some creative stuff as well. But it seems like a pretty solid addition, and kind of they are affordable enough that it seems like I'll eventually be replacing them, but it seems like a solid upgrade. It's always convenient when you come into the product category right as it reaches that like third version where it's now a little bit better, or they have accessories that you can add onto it and stuff like that. So there's an expansion of the line that's always nice. You don't have to deal with the early adopter part sometimes.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've kind of always enjoyed about Wyze is that while they make a device that kind of it's made for a specific thing, but it also can be used in other ways. So the Wyze outdoor camera that they came out with before this one of the things that they included was the ability to, instead of needing to be attached to a router and be a kind of, I can check in on this camera and see what's going on, it also has this technology where you can sort of set it somewhere and just let it run and store on the internal camera. So kind of like a wildlife camera was one example of how to use it. And the other example was you go to a hotel, you don't need to connect to the internet or anything like that. You don't need to connect to the what is it called? Static capture, interstitial capture page thingy that you normally have to at hotels. It just will store that video footage locally. So if you have concerns about things being taken from your room or something like that, you can just set up that camera and have it work as is. And this now applies to the Wyze Cam version 3 because it talks about how it can be used as a way to watch the stars and take time lapses of the stars. So along with being just a security camera for indoor and outdoor settings, it can also be a camera that you use for getting these very beautiful, very cool video streams of the stars. And so, yeah, I love the thinking of all of the possibilities and trying to pack in some of that when they make it.
Does that require it being powered though now? Or was that a difference before that? Because wasn't one of them wireless? I can check on this too.
The Wyze outdoor camera is wireless.
Yeah, but now that they're both, this one is wired. So I'm not sure the whole outdoor filming thing will work anymore. But that's something. Sorry. I should be clear. What I was saying was I like that Wyze, when it makes these devices, has some of these other use cases in mind. Okay. And so for that one that is the outdoor camera, I like that it can be used as a wildlife camera. For this one, I like that it can be used as a way to track the stars and do a time lapse of the stars. So two totally different things, two totally different feature sets. But I like that Wyze always includes some extra features on top of what you would normally expect from the security camera. Yeah, that's it does remind me that was one of the reasons I bought these and then forgot about apparently, was I was going to try it facing the sunset, because there's a lot of times our house, just the way that we spend our rooms in the evening, doesn't necessarily face that, but sometimes the Bay Area gets really, really nice sunsets, and I'll see a tweet that says the sunset is nice and then be like, oh, cool, and then go look. So if I could check a cam that was pointed towards that and like do little time lapses, that would be pretty awesome too. Yeah, lots to play with. It's no HomeKit or anything, but got if this and that and ALEXA, so that's good.
Then let's see. Oh, Amazon is kind of trying to make, look, Fire tablets are not good for, okay, let me be nice. Fire tablets are very inexpensive devices that are Android tablets that have Amazon's magic on top of them. And so they're a low cost. I mean, I remember there was a deal where you could buy like 5 of them flat pack shipped to you. Yeah. They're inexpensive tablets that are kind of limited use devices. But what would be a better idea than to have, for not much money, a touch device on your wall or sitting on your table or somewhere else that you can use as a smart home control center? I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, it makes sense. Especially this is what other services should be doing. iPad should have something like this for sure. It especially makes sense on a super low cost tablet too, because you could buy one specifically for this and just leave there and not really worry about or watch videos or something like that on it too. So I do remember one of my college roommates had a Fire tablet, I think mostly because it was affordable. It's like he wanted a tablet, and so he had one, as opposed to saving up for a year for an iPad or something like that. So this makes a lot of sense. And this is even a trend in the last few months, has been the smart display kind of home awareness feature things with the show. And we'll see in the next one too, that those are on sale now. But the Nest Hub and all of that. So that home screen thing is going to be interesting. I'm even interested. Apple just came out with, well, we'll get to this too, but their Apple One thing and Fitness Plus on the Apple TV is coming out soon. So the whole TV display as part of your smart home thing is going to be interesting too. I would like to see this on, like, people say that you would never use that on the TV, but also they haven't built it. So I wouldn't know. Can't tell until they try. So this seems pretty useful too.
I'm planning on getting, now I think I'm going to get one of these Fire tablets and try to use it as a smart home control center. So that could be a future project that we talk about on the show.
Yeah, nice.
Because I think about my partner who does his best to control the smart home, but it's troublesome, and it's not easy. And if you don't have, I think it requires a level of patience with technology to get going, to start understanding it. And then once you get there, then you're good to go. But you got to have that patience for technology in the first place. And so I think that something like this, where it's just simple hardware controls, would be really good. So I might have to try this out and see how well that works as a smart home control, especially with the new, let's see, the new, for folks that are listening, I'm currently trying to point behind me and it's just not very great.
Oh, okay. I see. I didn't know what you were doing out there.
Yeah, the new Amazon Echo Orb, which has a Zigbee bridge built into it. So, you get one of these and it connects to most of your smart home devices, the ones that aren't just connected via Wi-Fi already. And then you pair that with the Fire tablet, and suddenly you've got, some really good control over your smart home all in one package. So,
yeah, nice.
Yeah. Let's see. What do we have next? Oh, the Echo Show and the Fire TV are, there's quite the deal on these devices. Interestingly, I think some of this is, with the Echo Show at least, is because Amazon has announced a new Echo Show that follows you around the room. So I could see them kind of wanting to clear out some of the space for that one. But an 8-inch Echo Show for $65 is quite nice. And then if you wanted to, you can get the, the Echo Show 8 with an indoor security camera for $70. So I like these little packages as ways for people to kind of dip their toe into the smart home in some way. And yeah, those Blink security cameras are pretty good. They, they're Amazon, which is has its own concerns. But I do like the idea of somebody kind of getting somebody asks, what is this whole thing about the smart home? And for $70, they get an Echo Show that does all the stuff that an Echo does, plus all the things that a smart display Echo does. And they get a camera to go with it that they can say, ALEXA, show me the, front porch camera. And then suddenly it kind of can click, I think, for you. Oh, I see how this works. I see the benefit of some of this technology. So I like that.
Yeah, it's a nice, especially since Amazon's starting to go up market, especially with the Echo Show 10. It's $250. And so getting what's previous, is there even an Echo Show 9? Their naming scheme is like, we're on the Echo Show 25. It's like, I didn't even know that this product seems like it. I know it's been around for a couple of years, but it's how do they go through like 10 versions in less than 10 years?
Well, no, the number is based on the screen size. So the Echo Show 10 has a 10-inch screen. Echo Show 8 has an 8-inch screen. Echo Show 6 has a 6-inch screen. Or 5, has a 5-inch screen.
I had no idea, honestly. Like that's never been communicate. I guess it says it in it's got an 8-inch screen. So that makes a lot more sense. Okay. I've literally been like, what is going on? Because they
not versioning numbers, but instead screen numbers, screen size numbers.
Love saying that on a podcast. But I think it is like, if you are going to get into those smart display things, $70 is like a pretty solid deal. And the new ones have the camera and the whole rotating thing. So it is kind of a different product. But I think it's also part of what's interesting is that I'm trying not to say her name. ALEXA has been around for 5 years now. Like that was kind of Amazon's doing this because they released it on November 6, 2015. And so just a few days from now, it will be 5 years since all of this stuff. And this, like in many ways, 5 years of the smart home because it really started with the Echo. So it's just an interesting thing that makes a lot more sense. I think part of my point was like, how are they doing 10 versions in 5 years? But clearly that's not the case. So moving on.
Yes, we'll have to. I'll have to try to wish it happy birthday on that day to see what happens.
It's wild that we've been doing this show for 1/5 of the time. We have been doing this for over a year now. So it seems like the smart home has been around for a really long time, but it's really just the beginning. 50-second
episode, which would mean that we've done 52 weeks of shows, but there have been some that were skipped for holidays and stuff. So we've been doing it for over a year. But congratulations on 52 episodes.
Wait, how do we do a high five through the camera?
Golly, that'll have to do. Let's talk about webcams.
Sure.
So right now, I was just going to say, right now, I am using the Camo Studio from Reincubate as my webcam. This is connected to an iPhone. I forget which iPhone this is. Hold on. Let me look at Camo Studio. Connected to an iPhone 10s. That's what it is. Okay. An iPhone 10s Max or whatever it was called at that time. And so it's got the 2-camera system, wide and is it wide and telephoto on that one? Yeah, wide and telephoto. So I could, if you wanted to. So close.
Zoom in.
And let me zoom back out. There we go. So this is a way to use your iPhone as a camera on your Mac, or they've got a version for Windows out that's in beta right now. And basically what you do is you download the app on your iPhone, you plug it into your computer, you get Camo Studio on your Mac, and then it is the control center for the device. It does as much of the processing as it can on your iPhone, so it takes the processing away from having to do it on the computer. So the different settings that I can choose, of course, if I've got multiple iPhones connected for different angles, I could use that. You can change the lens that's being used. You can set the focus, like autofocus versus manually setting the focus, resolution. I could, rotate, zoom, all that kind of stuff with my video. And and also adjustments to exposure, white balance, brightness, hue, saturation, contrast. And it even has a setting, if I needed it, I could turn on the flash on the camera and use that as an extra camera for the screen, or for my video. This is, I feel, a fantastic application. You, I think, were the one that brought it up on an episode of this show. And what ended up happening was Reincubate reached out to us and said, hey, saw that you checked out Camo Studio. And I had some original kind of privacy concerns that you helped to kind of alleviate. And then after that, Aiden, who is the CEO of the company, also kind of explained more that helped me alleviate those concerns. And so it ended up being that I started using this because I've got two Logitech, C920 webcams. And frankly, this does a much better job of providing for a video stream. I'm going to switch really quickly just to another camera so you can see. This is another iPhone. This is my, iPhone 11.
Wow.
iPhone 11S Max.
Bro.
See, the names are getting confusing to me now. But anyway, I could very easily switch from one to the other. And again, I'm not going to go to telephoto right now because you don't need to see that.
That'll be up.
But yeah, and then I could switch right back. I think this system, see, there you go. Now you can kind of see there's one iPhone and here's the other one. I think this system is great. I think that it provides for a really good experience, and it is my sort of virtual webcam of choice, especially after using some of the other ones that were out there, including one called Epic Cam. And Matthew, you've got some news about Epic Cam that folks may have heard about. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes. Actually, now that I think about it, I just noticed Elgato sharing about it now, but did they acquire the app?
Yes, they bought. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Probably a smart idea, since that was the one that everybody downloaded and shared about when the pandemic first started. But they did a nice one over on me, I guess, doing that. Just smooth transition. They did add a lot of style to it. So it was basically sort of a outdated app. And then now it's integrated all with the rest of Elgato stuff. So these are the folks that make the Stream Deck. They've got a microphone now. They've got lights. They've got the HDMI inputs and game capture cards. So these guys are crushing it in terms of, I'm sure also making a good amount of money on all of these products, because they've been out of stock for ages. But now that they have the webcam thing too, so not everybody has to go buy a separate webcam. You can use the phones that you might already have, or especially if you are upgrading, use an older one it looks so much better. I assume a lot of people are just listening, but I use the Logitech 4K webcam every episode for this show, and you can tell that Mikah looks way better than I do, because mine is, even just in terms of, it's obviously it's an iPhone camera, so those are doing tons of work, but mine ends up being like not in focus or all weird, and the colors are like washed out, even though I have really good lights on and things. And I assume you have good lighting as well, but your shots always look way better. I'm like jealous every week.
You know where my lighting comes from?
What is it? The phone?
Elgato.
Oh yeah, nice. That's what I was gonna say. You probably got I went for the cheap $20 lights that I found on Amazon.
I don't know why that's so zoomed in on the output, because it's not on my internal camera. But this is the iPhone 12 Pro that I have connected right now.
With Epic Cam or Epoch?
Still, it's Epic, but still with Reincubate is what I'm using. Just so I have not downloaded Epic Cam since it's been updated. Sorry, I'll quit fooling around there. Because of the way that it works, I don't like. You have to install some deep integrations. At least the last time that I used it, you had to install a system extension, which requires kind of digging down deep into your computer. And it's one of those things where if anyone who owns a Mac will know, they have to launch system preferences. They have to go into security and privacy. And then there's this little pop-up within security and privacy that shows up that says, would you like to load software from a third party or something along those lines? And you choose yes, and then you have to type in your password. And I'm not big on that. And Epic Cam, the other thing is that it worked in three ways. It worked as over Wi-Fi. It worked as an NDI system, and it worked as a directly connected USB system. But the Wi-Fi I didn't like. It was not. It had too much lag. The NDI would only work in certain apps that supported NDI, and the wired was just not as good as, because it's one of three options as opposed to being the one option. It's just not as good as Camo is. And so that's what ended up, I uninstalled Epic Cam and installed Camo and stuck with that, because for me, that's the one that has worked the best overall.
Yeah, these are definitely different in terms of their focus. And I do think Reincubate is doing a good job of providing the control and the stability. I did have to insert scripts also in this. I think that's just a thing now with Macs, where anything that accesses the camera, you have to go into security and give it permissions. Apple's been really on that.
Sorry, lately. I got to clear though. I got to be clear about that, because it's two different kinds. There's the one where you go into system preferences and you go into security and privacy, and let me let that load. And then under privacy, there's like location services, et cetera. And for camera, you had to give it permission there. Sometimes for like automation, for full disk access, whatever it happens to be, accessibility. Those ones I'm okay with, because those are the typical kind of an app that wants to make use within it's still within the kind of sandboxed setup of macOS, but to instead install a system extension where essentially it loads as your computer loads, as opposed to being something that loads after your computer loads. That stuff kind of sketches me out. And there are only certain applications that I allow to do that in very particular instances. And one of those is my CalDigit Thunderbolt 3 dock, because of because it needed to have a system extension in order to provide the proper power output to charge the 16-inch MacBook Pro. And so CalDigit is, a very specific hardware manufacturer. I trusted it to give it that permission and feel good about doing that. But Epic Cam at one point was not a company that I knew at all.
Exactly.
Now it's owned by Corsair and Elgato, and that's fine. But when I've got an app that can do this stuff, I feel better, and it doesn't need a system extension, that I'm still not keen on giving it that power.
Yeah, that's fair. And that makes sense. The power thing that you mentioned specifically about charge could be maybe part of it, because I have noticed, that I'm using all of my inputs every day for the streaming and podcast stuff that I do. And so I've been noticing just power issues, or like, I think the top right port of my MacBook can't run Reincubate, but the rest of them can.
Weird.
That's always a weird thing I have like a 2017 MacBook Pro. A big difference, I guess, is that Elgato's thing is $8 now and Reincubate is $40, but it does seem more like a Mac desktop utility and not kind of what you should get if you're in Elgato's ecosystem. And again, I do think people will run into the limitations of the phone stuff. It is really nice, but it works for specific things, and I can't use it for my top-down thing, even with the zoomed in camera, because it's just not long enough of a focal length or stuff like that. So
right, yeah, you're going to get a much better view with your more expensive camera, or more.
I'm all down for competition in this space, because this should be an iPhone feature. Like, it shouldn't require an app at all. So I mean, you can even do it wirelessly in certain applications. So it is kind of wild that I could totally see this being an Apple Silicon thing. So maybe we'll see more next week with Apple's event coming out. But
yes,
that's not the show. So
all right, let's actually take a quick break. This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Mint Mobile. I don't know why, but it just required that. I think it's because I'm very excited. You should break up with your old wireless carrier. It's so much easier thanks to Mint Mobile. In fact, Mint Mobile was the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, and now Mint Mobile is introducing its unlimited data plan for just $30 a month. Let that sink in. An unlimited plan for $30. Unlimited, $30. How much is your soon-to-be ex-wireless provider charging you? I got to tell you, I was so pumped. I knew that I was going to get this iPhone 12 and eventually upgrade to the iPhone 12, or maybe upgrade to the iPhone 12 Pro. I wanted to give this a go. I also wanted to make sure that I had it on, day one to test it and everything like that. And I think that I will be updating or going instead for the 12 Pro. But what was super exciting is because I was not necessarily going to stick with this phone, I didn't want to take my main carrier and put it into this phone. So I took my Mint Mobile SIM. I popped it into this iPhone 12 Pro, and lo and behold, I had 5G on this iPhone 12 Pro. That's right. I thought that was so awesome. Immediately ready to roll. Mint Mobile was there for me. It had my data. It had everything ready, and I was able to try out 5G thanks to Mint Mobile. So you made my job easier, and I appreciate you for that. Mint Mobile's $30 unlimited wireless plan is so much less than what the big carriers are charging you. For people that hate their phone bill and are just ready to cut ties with big wireless, Mint Mobile offers its premium unlimited plan for $30 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes those savings on to you. That's how they do it. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. And if you're not 100% satisfied, well, don't worry, because Mint Mobile has you covered with its 7-day money-back guarantee. You gotta break up with big wireless and switch to Mint Mobile's premium unlimited data plan for $30 a month. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $30 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/STT. That's mintmobile.com/STT. Cut your unlimited wireless bill to $30 a month at mintmobile.com/STT. Our thanks to Mint Mobile for just absolutely rocking it and for being there for me with my new iPhone 12 Pro. I do appreciate you, and I appreciate the Fox. All right, let's talk Apple. Apple news. So up first is I was really excited to see this, and it means now I've got to go digging. So it's really annoying, Matthew. I have a power adapter for an Eve light strip, but I don't remember where I put the light strip itself. And Eve has become the first company to roll out a firmware update that uses Apple's new color-changing adaptive lighting. This basically changes the light throughout the day to provide for a proper experience for sort of waking up in the morning and going throughout your day and then going to bed at night without kind of blasting your eyes with that blue light that I've talked a lot about that hits those suprachiasmatic nuclei inside of your brain and kind of messes up your circadian rhythm. This light will change throughout the course of a day automatically based on your location, and it will sort of take that blue light out and help you to kind of adjust to your environment. This is something that Apple announced at WWDC as a feature that was going to be coming to HomeKit, and of course, individual manufacturers were going to need to update their hardware to support it, but we have not seen any news of this happening. And in fact, I thought Philips Hue would be the first company to do it, but was not. And instead, Eve has beat them all to the punch with its new firmware update that provides for adaptive lighting. Are you excited about this?
I'm cautiously optimistic because it seems interesting, but it's different than how lighting has worked forever. So like lights generally are yellowish in homes. And so white lights are weird a lot of times. Like I use it because I know of like the way it does help me. It does help to have the room be brighter, even just with less lights. Them being white casts more light. And I also do it for video production because it's an even daylight balance. But I don't know if I've ever set any of my smart lights to be that like darker orange that they put in the color temperature scale. And even all of this happens in my office where I'm the only person involved in it. And so that's kind of the other thing is it is just weird. It's like it's a change from how lighting has always worked. And so in order to have it'll just be like interesting to see what this really is like, because I don't know if I'm going to always enjoy the things that it chooses. I do have I have the Eve strip also, and mine is not plugged in, I think because it buzzed.
Oh no.
And it was just low-key
You're very
enough.
sensitive to that.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll talk about it later too with, when I used the line in on my Echo Dot, it started making a noise and I was like, nope, instantly. Like, I think everybody should be sensitive to it because if usually you just don't notice and then it goes away and you're like, oh my gosh, it's quiet now. I noticed that on Halloween that there was a bunch of people outside for the first time in the last 6 months. And I was like, oh wow, I'm so unused to there being noise outside. But I feel like it's cool to see Eve doing this. I like seeing companies competing for the HomeKit space, especially because Eve is generally, I'm pretty sure they're all HomeKit only. So this makes a lot of sense. It would make sense even for that reason that they're the first company to get it done because they don't have to worry about the other services or anything like that. But this is cool. I should probably reach out to them and see if maybe I did get a defective unit or something like that. But lighting, oh man, I was almost going to buy that cheaper light strip, but I forgot that I already have one. The buzzing thing is a pretty much no-go though for me in my office, because if I'm just sitting here listening to it all day long, that's going to drive me crazy. But the adaptive lighting thing is going to be worth checking out. Do you think you'll do it if you get them, or something that supports it?
If I can find, like I said, I've got an Eve light strip. Yeah. I just have to find it. It's somewhere in my, packed away boxes. So as soon as I find that light strip, yeah, I'm gonna. I'm trying to decide where I want to put it. So I kind of like what the video shows where it's lighting atop a space, and I think that could be kind of interesting. You have it kind of running around the interior of your wall up at the top toward the ceiling, just to kind of provide an overhead lighting that is just subtle. So yeah, we'll see. But like I said, I just got to track it down. I don't know where I put it.
It does look like you can, I don't know what it means to stream the Eve Cam also got features, and it says you can stream footage to the Apple TV, which is kind of interesting. Maybe that just means the Apple TV support, or with all the HomeKit things, or it's like you can tune in live, but that's interesting. That one's a little bit pricier though.
Yeah. Let's see what's next. So this is a story from Mac Stories by John Voorhees about using the Linksys Velop Mesh Wi-Fi router system. So not an Eero guy, but instead a product from Linksys called the Velop Tri-Band Mesh Wi-Fi router system. And this is a Wi-Fi system that supports Apple's home integration, so that you can basically control and adjust some of the settings of your network using HomeKit. We talked a little bit about this when the product first launched, or when this, not product, but when this feature first launched. But it's kind of nice to have a write-up out there. I can't remember if you had talked about it. I certainly kind of talked about the way that it works, where essentially you go in and you've got your different routers and extenders or bridges available. And by turning on HomeKit accessory security, you can set them to 3 different modes: automatic, no restriction, and restrict to home. With automatic, it will only allow in certain connections that are kind of pre-approved by the device manufacturer. With no restriction, it allows connections from anything. And with restrict to home, there's no connection to the internet at all, but only will connect to your local area network. And I think one of the things that I most enjoy is if I go into home settings, I go into my Wi-Fi networks and routers, and I choose one of these devices. So the D-Link camera, for example. Well, no, that one doesn't have it. I'm trying to find one. Yeah. So there are different devices where it will actually show you, hey, here are some of the connections that are available to it, and here are some of the things that it tried to connect to. And so it'll say some unexpected connections were blocked, so that you kind of know. So this is good to secure your smart home a little bit more than you might expect in other ways.
I think that's kind of the key feature, that once you get a network that has something like this, then you can kind of detect unwanted smart home stuff that otherwise I don't know how you could possibly figure that out unless you had some fancy system. Or I mean, there are ways, but having it built into just the product that you already own is a lot better. And it's just good to see more routers get the support and have more control over those kinds of things. Because I think what's ironic is, in theory, HomeKit is already secure enough that a lot of these things, like this would be really useful for all of the Internet of Things out there that don't necessarily have the same security protocols. So with the home bridge and all of that, I'm curious how, if you restricted those settings, would it enable those devices to stay connected, but also not do their creepy stuff? Because there's definitely, I saw it was a Bluetooth speaker from like a absurd mega church person that was like all your daily affirmations, and inside of it there's a
Joel Osteen.
Yeah, there's a micro SD card hidden in it that is like not supposed to be found, and it was like it like has a virus on it for sure and stuff like that. So it was kind of like, ooh, maybe be a little bit careful with that kind of stuff. Again, though, I mean, I think sometimes it is just peace of mind. Like I do remember talking about on the show, and I was just like, I turned it on. Great. No, I don't know. It doesn't seem any different, but sometimes that is, if it is providing the more security while not really changing the process, might as well go for it. It is like it's like the least actively used features, but is still just part of the process now. So good little write-up for Mac Stories. Also worth noting, I guess, that those Wi-Fi routers aren't their latest Wi-Fi 6 ones. So that is kind of the limitation. I was going to suggest like this could be a new way, or like a new system that does kind of rise to the top, but at least for now it is their older one. So if you're super future proofing, you might want to wait till those get it too.
Yes. So let's see the next one. I want to be careful about how we report about this.
That's exactly my point.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah. Then go ahead, please take it away.
The headline is, Apple added a secret button to your phone and you may not have even noticed. And they're referring to the accessibility feature for iOS 14 called Backtap that we talked about on the show. It's an awesome feature. Lets you do a lot of system commands, or even for people who are following all the shortcut stuff, you can run any of your shortcuts, which is awesome. And that is how I'm using it. But it's always worth mentioning when you see headlines like this, it's like accessibility stuff is not a secret feature. It's not like a cool hack that's just there to be a cool thing. Like there's legitimate reasons for these things. And I think that's what gets frustrating. Even though this article does say like, oh, it's an accessibility thing, you got to lean into the fact that it's built for that purpose and is a critical function for these people, not just like a secret hack that you didn't know about. We're both, I'm not sure how much of you actually know Stephen Aquino, but he talks about this a lot, where it's really frustrating when you're the person who needs those accessibility features and these are really good for you, and then they only get positioned as cool hacks, secret, like top hidden 10 things.
And it's not, they're not hidden to some people. They're not secret to some people. Some people need them. And to relegate them to this thing that Apple is hiding or, is making available to you, that's not, it's just, it's kind of poor taste, and it's not accurate, frankly. So accurate reporting is important.
Especially like with accessibility features, all of these have a lot of benefit to almost everybody. And I think the problem is positioning as this implies that those should be hidden and otherwise aren't important unless they're really cool and benefit everybody else. But these things are here. And I can assume it's not the writer's intent, but I think that's still it's really important, because accessibility stuff, especially with iPhones, is like the best in the world. And those things, I mean, even just sometimes it is like pressing the wallet button on the side is really weird, or you can't reach the screenshot thing now because the phones are ginormous. And so everybody can use this. Accessibility features are for everybody and aren't a secret thing that should be kept hidden until you reveal it to the world. It should just be something that everybody knows about and celebrates. So we obviously both fully agree on this thing. I'm getting worked up, but it is like, you gotta, I hope tech reporters get better than this in the future, because it is
be better.
Yeah, it's almost a meme to write it like this, and to see that coming on October 30th, 2020 is like, come on, guys. I thought we already covered this, but maybe we should send some feedback to The Verge.
Yeah. Up next, a very cool feature, not hidden, anything like that. It is
well-written headline.
Yeah, it's all about the Lidar sensor in the new iPhones 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. This is a tool that, people kind of, what was this used for? Autofocus is one way. Low light photography is another way. Of course, that's still kind of with autofocus. AR is one way. But with the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max, one of those kind of AR features is to help people who have low or no vision detect people around them using the Lidar sensor in the camera. So the way that Lidar works, it's one of the technologies that's used in self-driving cars. It basically looks at how long it takes for light to bounce off of an object and hit that sensor. And by determining the time that it takes for it to hit that sensor, it can figure out how far away something is in comparison to how far away another thing is. So if I'm standing in front of you and you have your iPhone up facing me and it bounces that light off of me and hits back, it knows how far away I am from you and can use that to kind of inform what's going on. So it's called people detection is the feature, and kind of helps someone, if they're in a checkout line, for example, or if they are, walking down the road and are, wanting to make sure that there's not somebody right in front of them, or if there are people that are coming toward them where they need to stand. It says, the CNET article says, people detection will be able to tell the person's distance from the user in feet or meters, and it works up to 15 feet or 5 meters away. Anyone in the iPhone 12 Pro's wide-angle camera view can be detected by the feature. If there are multiple people nearby, people detection will give the distance from the one closest to the iPhone user. The technology will be available as part of iOS 14.2 over the coming weeks. Apple released a beta version of the software to developers on Friday.
Yeah, this is amazing. And proper credit to CNET, too, for the headline, iPhone 12 Pro lets people who are blind see around them, just to emphasize the difference between that last article. It's not just like a cool LiDAR
hidden feature that lets you know where the cars are. I don't know. I can't even think of anything that it could otherwise be used for.
Yeah, and they've got good additions too, where it can read out loud how close you are, and haptic feedback and everything. So this is awesome. I will also mention shortcuts can open the magnifier app. So I totally have a shortcut that is like detect people now that is really useful to use. So also good on the back tap and accessibility button and everything there too.
Oh, yeah.
And CNET does a great job too. I will give them more credit of talking about 2 billion people have vision impairment or blindness in the US, over 1 million people who are over 40 are blind, things like that. So they did a really good job of emphasizing the accessibility focus of these features.
Now, this next one is something that I think you are excited about. I think Renee Ritchie was excited about, and maybe the 3 or 4 other people who use the Clips app. Wink. What's happened? What's happened with Clips?
The reason that nobody uses it is because they've had Square Photos for the last, I don't even know when it came out, but they've had this amazing app that can stitch together videos really easily on your phone and put little graphics on it. And even the most important thing is also a cool accessibility feature is being able to do live captions of what you're saying, which is really hard to do on mobile otherwise. But they've all been Square videos. And this, I have been like rallying against this from day one because I was like, great, really cool app. I'll use it when it gets portrait, landscape, like more aspect ratios. And it's been years and years and they've never done it. And there's got to be like technical reasons. I would assume somehow they added even vertical video only when you're using the portrait mode with the front facing camera, which also made no sense to me because then now suddenly you have one video that isn't Square and the rest are. I specifically rallied against this because I used to work in social media marketing at VaynerMedia, and we specialized in Facebook content and things like that. And one of the recommendations that one person at the company made from Facebook was that technically a Square video is optimized for mobile. I'm putting air quotes for anybody who's listening because, yes, a Square video does look the least bad in both formats if you're choosing one format for both the phone and the desktop. I think it was the worst thing that ever happened because, like, yes, that is optimized for your workflow. It is not visually how people create videos. People don't frame things right in those videos. It also, like, stories format, the full screen thing, has clearly proven to be completely superior because it actually is enjoyable. It's a full video. You can see a lot more. And it was just like, I saw that happen at Facebook. And then we all worked on major brands, like every brand out there that does this. And so everybody made Square videos and it just became the social media thing. And I was like, no, it's just dreadful. It's not, I mean, it's fine. Like if it works for that, but you can creatively, like a 4:3 aspect ratio uses a lot of the more vertical space and wider space. It's just like Square became like, it was the easiest. Sorry, this is a full rant that I was not expecting, but Clips also never did that. And so they completely missed the stories boat that has been growing for the last 3 years. Also, it doesn't work for any other platforms that you want to watch a widescreen video on. And so it was like this, Apple had this really, really awesome creative tool that people could have been using every day for the last 3 years, especially times when we're all limited to our phones half the time too. And instead, it seemed like they were just refusing to put in the like actual ways that people make videos. And so I've been just waiting, and it is like, finally, they actually did it because now you can make it real videos with the really cool recording app. And so it's like, you're right that people just don't use it, I think, because it was so limited. They did do a weird thing now where it will take landscape video on your phone, but it doesn't change the UI at all to show you that. And so it just seems like you can only take portrait video. And then on the iPad, it shoots only in landscape and doesn't work in portrait now. So it is like they did but the same thing, you can still import and everything as you need. So it is just the choice to have a video app on one platform locked in a certain orientation and the other locked in the opposite is a very odd choice as well. But I'm just glad to see it is really like, wow, you can actually make a video that people want in the format that videos have always been created in and is like most common nowadays. So I'm really glad to see this. This has been, it sounds like I'm just frustrated, but it's because I felt limited by what could have been a really cool tool, especially in those last 3 years. I became a video creator. And so I was disappointed I couldn't use this, even though it was really good. So that is a very long-winded way to say it's here. The Real Clips app is out now. And now it's time to start playing around with it.
Excellent. Let's take a quick break. This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by ExpressVPN. I love ExpressVPN. Every day on the news, there's a story about how technology is creeping into our private lives. That's why I genuinely do use ExpressVPN to secure all of my devices, not just my phone, but my computer, my iPad, my television, everything, because ExpressVPN encrypts and anonymizes all of your data to keep it hidden from unwanted outside snoops. That includes your ISP. You should use it every time you connect to the internet. ExpressVPN is so easy to use. You just fire up the app, you tap that big old button in the middle, and you're protected. Go online and search ExpressVPN. You will see it's the #1 rated VPN provider on the market. Honestly, you're not going to find better. ExpressVPN developed a technology that I just adore. It's called Trusted Server, and that makes it impossible for its servers to log any of your info. I love that. And your internet speeds are always fast when using ExpressVPN. You don't have to worry about lag. It has been that way for me. Take action and protect yourself like I did with ExpressVPN. I pretty much always have ExpressVPN turned on my devices because it's better, it's safer, but then also, I don't feel like I need to turn it off in order to get those speeds that I want because of how quickly ExpressVPN works. It's swift, super simple to use, and it's available on all of your devices, and that makes it so great. Visit our special link, expressvpn.com/STT right now, and you can claim an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Support the show and protect yourself like I have. That's expressvpn.com/STT for 3 extra months free. My thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. Genuinely, I'll unlock my phone or my iPad, do whatever I'm doing, and then I'll look up, the VPN square is up there, letting me know that the VPN is turned on. I didn't notice because it's just as fast. It's awesome. Thank you, ExpressVPN. All right. Let's talk about snuggling in for the winter. We are about to hit the cold season, which I'm very happy about. And the one thing that happens when we hit the cold season, at least for some folks, is it means that they go out less than they would in the warmer seasons, although we've all been spending time indoors more so than we have. And so it's just kind of doubling down on that. It's doubling down on less light hitting you, hitting your eyes, hitting the suprachiasmatic nuclei. So a lot of people suffer from a seasonal depression due to our bodies thinking that it is time to hibernate, to cut back on caloric burn, and to try and do less so that our bodies can last through the winter. That's where that seasonal depression comes from. It's a what is the word I'm looking for? An evolutionary mechanism that we have not overcome in order to protect ourselves and get ourselves through the winter whenever we couldn't go out and hunt or gather our food. So while we're all nesting for the winter, Matthew thought it'd be a good idea to talk about what you can do to improve your indoor space for the winter.
Yeah, especially it's definitely, right now is the switch for daylight saving time in the US, and that is always a huge shift. Also, October, I was really noticing the change in the sunrise times because I suddenly was just sleeping in more and I was struggling to get up. So it's a whole controversy of whether or not you want to have more light in the morning or more in the afternoon. But regardless, it is happening. I think sometimes maybe it's because we're stuck inside and you're much more aware of how your space affects you and things like that, that never been more clear to me that I do need to change something for these colder or just less light months, because it's going to affect me. Like, that's one of my biggest things in lockdown is really I've been forced to understand how I work, because there's been plenty of times where I haven't been able to work or just not getting what I want to be done and something else instead. So, I mean, maybe focusing on the right thing is a whole different story, but I think it's always worth understanding how the space around you is influencing you. It's even more timely with the political atmosphere or things like that can also influence you, but it is like, no matter what, the space that you are in will change how you're feeling throughout the day. And my biggest goal personally was, I just want to be in my office. Like, this is the space where I need to get my work done. And if I don't want to be sitting there doing something, there's probably a reason why. We did talk last week about ergonomics, and that was probably one of the major things for me for a while, was not sitting properly in a chair, looking forward at a screen that was at high height, or if I am going to be using something like an iPad, switching off and doing other things in between. So I'm not like a 4-hour session or 8-hour session on an iPad is going to make you stand forward with your head down the whole time, and that's going to affect you too. So one of those things that I haven't been, just as a little follow-up on the ergonomics thing, I haven't been using the little seat cushion that I got, because it doesn't fit as well with the chair that I have. I think because the chair that I have has mesh on the bottom, this cushion kind of starts to sink into it, and then I'm worried that I'm going to be creating other problems instead. But I've got a little footrest thing that has been nice, purely because I can, when I'm not wearing my shoes, I put my feet on it and it feels nice. Like, that was one of the major things that I want, is just comfort, because I mean, I have single pane windows too. So the cold thing is definitely going to be getting me a bit. I don't have like central heating or anything. I was joking on Twitter that I don't want to just use extra power, but if I'm going to be using computing power to process videos or things like that, probably going to be doing that early in the morning so that the space stays warm. But I think a lot of just choosing to put things in the space that bring you visual comfort, I think, is a really valuable thing. I work in what is basically an old room in what is my girlfriend's grandma's house. And so if I did just kind of had the realization the other day that everything in this room I put in here and chose why it was in here, and it otherwise is just an empty space with like floral wallpaper and things like that. So the wallpaper itself doesn't exactly bring me joy, I'd say, the KonMari style. But that is something that I'm going to try to address. I think I'm going to be doing it this week. Is I'm going to tear off all the wallpaper and paint the walls, and paint one of them green also. That is a nice green color that we happen to have from our current room. And so that alone is going to bring me joy. Like, I know that I'm going to walk in here and just be like, this looks nice. And that will make me feel happier about being in here. And it always sometimes the design stuff does feel like, is that really going to have as much of an impact? I don't know if that's a sentiment from the before times, and maybe people do just get it now. But I think another thing that obviously applies to smart tech today a ton is lighting. I've got the Philips Hue Go here, is the little portable light from Hue. I think having some sort of portable light during the winter is a good idea, because it really is just being able to change the colors on something and then stick it in a space where you normally wouldn't create or set a light permanently can just give a different vibe to a space that you otherwise wouldn't have. Like, I think a big thing for me is using the same space in different ways to help me either shift contexts, like the light changes. And so that's like, now I'm doing this kind of thing. Or you turn off all the lights, and I've got the Hue Orb here is an even bigger portable light. And then that can kind of just give a whole room vibe sort of thing. Whether or not you want to go full RGB is up to you. But
the full RGB.
I've said that on the show, is I kind of always have that like gamer thing, but then it's when I got the LifeX light strip with really good quality light, and then started doing the shifting lights throughout the color shift throughout the day. It's just like, oh, this space that is just a room otherwise now is kind of like has that vibe or whatever. So, but the adaptive lighting thing that we mentioned is another good way to like kind of shift throughout the day and also make sure the environment matches what you should be doing with your natural circadian rhythm. I'm interested in getting more plants too, because I think real plants, despite how hard they can be to make them survive, if you can get that routine down, it does just give a space so much more of a hominess
and it's good for
and just a real life.
It's nurturing for the human as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like the presence. And I mean, the thing that I think I said this too, that we have a prayer plant, and it still blows my mind because it's a plant that throughout the day, it will rise the leaves up and then drop them down depending on like the light and things like that. And so just seeing a plant truly be alive in a short amount of time was like, oh yeah, wow, this is cool. Something else that I'm experimenting with more is vertical space. I'm really interested. I've been watching tons of studio setup videos on YouTube, and one person was like, oh yeah, I have the IKEA cart. And I was like, yes, I'm so sold instantly, because I have a lot of junk that just needs to get piled somewhere, and you always end up putting it on any vertical surface that's available, or horizontal surface. And so having a dedicated space that also takes advantage of that vertical space above it with 3 separate little shelving units, and then I'm going to just wheel it into my closet most of the time and can take it out for videos. I have a specific purpose there, but that's going to be really nice. And I think using art on the walls and shelving to add little doohickeys that you don't, like I have them on my bookshelf, but I have to move them out of the way to get the books out. And so I just don't read the books now. So getting shelving like that and art makes a big difference too. Like I've got a almost entirely blank wall here to my right. And I remember when my desk was facing that, I could tell that it was just like bland. I was just looking at nothing. And so that was kind of dragging me down, because it's just like the least inspirational thing you could have. Other than that, I mean, I do want to talk about your space, by the way, because I've noticed all your little speakers, but I use Endel a lot. We've talked about that, and I'm going to definitely be using it this week. They got widgets too, which I'm super pumped about, that show your circadian rhythm thing. That's like, you should try it, Mikah, because that's why I like Endel a lot, is it's kind of like, oh, you're on a circadian rhythm dip. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not going to worry about not being productive, because I'm not going to anyways. So I sort of just take a break then and then shift back into it. So putting something besides music or podcasts can be important, because I used to shove podcasts in my ears all day long, and we're obviously making podcasts now, but like choosing when you listen to something like that can be important just for your mental space as well. Mm-hmm. Headphones and noise cancellation also, I think, in the same way, if there starts to be environmental noise that you can't control, having those ways to block it out makes a huge difference. And just sort of your privacy thing, I always notice when I put on these headphones, I work. And when I'm not wearing them, sometimes I'm like in between. And so I always forget to just listen to music on headphones. Like big over-ear headphones do kind of keep me in that space and tired in the environment. And then, like we said, phone as the webcam thing is also a good technique to build out your space a little bit more. I really do want to get a Zoom TV setup. Maybe that's why those Zoom products make a lot of sense, because it's the problem that I can't figure out is audio feedback. Like if you have a webcam on your TV, they're just going to hear the sound from the TV. And so it doesn't really work. But I want a way to have more video calls and just casually be able to hang out with people in these spaces and do it digital, since that's the only option we have right now. Yeah. And then I think an important thing with all of this that I've really tried to emphasize is, for me especially, is like use something that you already have. Like that can come with a certain amount of privilege of already having some older things. But if you do have something, rearranging your space and like even just changing the 2 carpets that I have and switching them made a huge difference, because one of them doesn't look as nice, and the one I'm standing on right now is blue and fluffy. It was a super cheap one on Amazon, but it just visually looks better than a super flat carpet. And so it's now like underneath my standing desk, and it's like a little lane kind of. And so it is like, ooh, I want to like stand here and be in my spot. So it's been interesting. And then the one that is, I'll say even more privileged, is just the VR stuff can take you out of the space literally. Like I've been using that the last 2 weeks specifically. It's like, oh, I just did my newsletter for 5 hours, but I want to do something else in this room. I went in, did my Beat Saber thing and dancing all around, and then took it off. And it just feels like now you are in a different space and you can come back to this and change your context a little bit.
Yeah, I like that.
So it's pretty sure the Oculus Go is discontinued now. So maybe there's some on sale out there if you are looking for a more affordable one than the new Quest. But I do want to say, like, people can't, if you're listening, you can't see it, but you used to not have your background and now you do. And yours makes me happy. So I have to assume you're enjoying your space now.
So for my background, I used to just have a wall behind me. Basically what had happened was, I came to California to take this job at TWiT, and it was kind of a whirlwind event of moving, actually flying out here to check out Petaluma, check out California, and then moving in and all that stuff. It all happened so quickly. And I am a person who, when it comes to home decor, I'm very particular about it. And like, I pull out, the laser aligner and the pencils and erasers for making marks where they need to be, and stud finders. I have to have it perfect, or else every time I look at a photo or whatever it is that's on the wall, I go, that's not right. That's not right. And it just kind of haunts me. So because of that, it takes a lot of activation energy to really get my space set up. And so getting my space set up. Yeah. So what I ended up doing was, because most days I would, go to work and then come back, and at that point it was just me and the dogs in the house. There was not really a reason to. I didn't have I didn't feel the need to get everything set up. And so this space was just kind of like I had my bedroom set up how I wanted it and my kitchen set up how I wanted it, but everything else could kind of just be where it was. And at some point I would kind of unpack everything. Then the pandemic hit and we all started working from home. And so I had to quickly get my personal space, the office, set up to be able to do video from home. And then, you kind of get into the habit of doing that. And doing that. And so finally, my partner was part of the encouragement of kind of changing up the space and pulling stuff out and getting things put together and all that stuff. And so with rearranging of the house, it kind of gave me that activation energy that I needed to set up this space, my office space. The desk is in a different location. And behind me, I've got it was a pick of the week on this show, the Devoom Pixu LED display. And then that poster is from Pop Chart Labs, and it's called The Faces of Scranton. It is every character from The Office categorized and sort of encapsulated, and along with just their names, it's got info like what roles they played in Michael Scott's movies, what nicknames they've had, who their family members are. It's basically data visualized, but it's all about The Office. And so obviously I've got to have that in my home. If you ever are looking for a place to spend money and have some really cool artwork, Pop Chart Labs is your place to go, because I've got so many posters from them now. I've got one that's
oh, wow.
all the dog breeds, and it talks about the different dog breeds and sort of which groups they fit into. I've got one that's called like the Compendious Coffee Chart, and it has all the different, or a bunch of different types of coffee you can make. And then above it, it shows the sort of process of making it, including the brewing methods, the type of bean, what you add to it. And so you can kind of sort of follow along down the chart to figure out.
How dare you tell me about this?
I know. I did this to Leo too, and Leo ended up, he's like, oh gosh, now I'm going to be spending a bunch of money on here. There's one for wine that I have in my kitchen that talks about different wine varietals and stuff like that. But then on the other side here, I've got, this is coming up, I'll be ordering the HomePod Mini on Friday, and that is because I'm doing a test of the $399 smart speakers. That one, for folks who are listening, I'm pointing to them, so that's why I'm saying that one, is the Nest Audio in a beautiful green color. It's kind of hard to see with the cameras, the difference between the two. But this is a beautiful green color, the Nest Audio. And then the Amazon Echo, this is Amazon's new Echo, where they've been touting the sound in its orb. It is blue. And then I'll be getting the HomePod Mini, and I'll be kind of putting those, testing those against one another. So those are sitting there. And then I've got, of course, just a light. It's a Cree LED bulb. Those are really high quality LED bulbs. Yeah, so that's kind of what's behind me. And then I've got my, like I said, my Elgato lighting, the Elgato, or is it called Elgato still? Yeah. I can't even think of what it's called now. Think of
it either, the panel ones.
Yeah, the two panel. One is an Air and one is just the standard panel. But anyway, those are the lights. And then, like I said, I use Epic Cam. So not a whole lot has changed in terms of comfort and stuff like that. I'm still using the desk that I've always used, and my chair is the same and everything like that. It's just this space feels more like, my own little studio space. So that's nice.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. I mean, you brought up a lot of good points about the activation energy, and the amount of time it takes to do these things is always worth. I should have acknowledged that too, because I've been doing this it's taken me years to get to this space, and also a lot of a lot of trial and error too. Like a lot of setups didn't work. I've had the desk against one wall. I did the whole fancy office thing where you're facing out towards the desk is in the center, and when you walk in you see the back of the computer like you're an executive. So that wasn't that didn't work out very well, but it does take so much energy, and I think sometimes not everybody loves the whole KonMari thing, but I think one of the things that I got the most out of it is what works really well is when you take everything out and then you just have to put it back because it's a giant mess. Obviously,
yes.
Hopefully you can get through to the point where you don't just accidentally make a giant mess and then you're sitting in it. But it is a necessary evil. Like I always really struggled before I started to pull those things out because you're like, I don't want to make a mess. I'm trying to make it look better, but it's a temporary thing. It does force you to do it, and then it makes a big difference. And I think I also wanted to mention it because a lot of times you do feel like you have to buy a lot of new things and upgrade and get a lot of different things, but just maybe reconsidering what you already have and putting it in different spaces, or like if you can repurpose something and put up art that print out some art or something, I don't know, get something online, like that stuff can really make, like art alone, this same room without the art on the walls would be dreadful. I would hate it. And that's what really did get it to me of like, this is now my space, and this is now my space.
My space.
But it really hadn't felt like that until now. And that I think was the big part is I have that problem with my computers too a bit, is that I'm using my girlfriend's MacBook Pro. And so I have the default background, and I've noticed that I don't have, it just feels like a machine and not like my computer. And I do kind of miss that. So creating, even if it's sometimes just like, definitely most people don't have their own office space. So that's a huge part of it, but getting a little light, a little desk toy. Is your plant real? I have fake plants also, so I'm just curious.
No, that one is fake. All of my real plants are in spaces that get a lot more natural lighting.
That's my problem. So I prioritize just where I want to put the plant and not actually how to raise a proper plant. So I think that's a good way to balance it out, is maybe have one real one near the window or something like that. And then, it is just so much cheaper. Like some of those IKEA things can make a big difference. And like I just we had a drawer unit that we were using in a different space and wasn't really used much. And now that's in here. And that alone made a big difference because I had one more vertical surface that was at a proper height and things like that. So sometimes little tweaks go a long way.
Like this
cactus. You got a little
plant I made.
What is a knit cactus? What do you call that?
This is a crochet cactus.
Yeah.
Technically a amigurumi cactus plant.
How often do you water it?
Means crochet in the round. I cough on it every other day, and that seems to be enough water for it. We need to round out the show, so we got to move on to our picks of the week. Matthew, what is your pick of the week?
Yes, this is the app that I used to check whether or not I actually want to paint the room, one of the walls, an accent color. And it's called Primer, and it's one of the fancy AR apps, but it does feel a little bit like it was built for the iPad because it only works in portrait or in vertical orientation. And I noticed that I was like standing in the closet, leaning back as far as I could just to get the photo of the wall with that, so I could actually see what it looks like. But you kind of scan the wall and then take a little shape and then expand it to the right size. And they've got a bunch of different wallpapers and colors. So cool. I will say it wasn't as smooth as I had hoped. Like I thought it was kind of the thing where you scan the wall and then you would just drop a thing on and it would fill the entire wall. And it is kind of like putting a graphic over the top of it. Like obviously
I've noticed it doesn't go all the way to the edges or find objects and sort of go around them, object occlusion or anything like that.
Yeah, but it's still a neat concept. And I think I do want to see more of this in the future. Like I've used a measure app also to check my space, and that's why I keep saying MySpace, to check how much room you have. And that is accurate enough. Like maybe if you're building something specific, don't rely on those measurements. But if you're just trying to see how much room your desk takes and whether or not you could change it without actually moving it first, it's a good tool there. So Primer, if you want to get that color space and see what it could look like. Like wallpaper is an interesting angle that I think isn't as popular even like with people my age, but it does seem like it's kind of made a comeback in the last few years with all the aesthetic type stuff. So maybe you could.
It mostly makes me cry, but
I'm tearing this off of my walls is going to make me cry. So it's I think 100 years old, and although I'm pretty sure there's only one layer, so we'll see. Like, wish me luck, but
yeah. Got a steamer, right?
We do not, but we have the solution system, and we do have a clothes steamer that we could use. But
use that. It'll help.
Yes. You've got a more serious pick.
my grandparents used to buy and flip homes, and they just used a clothing steamer, and it worked just fine. Nice. So, yes, my pick of the week, folks, if you have not gone to vote yet, please go vote. There have been some news stories about some folks who are trying to stop people from voting in different ways, using different tactics, traffic tactics, scare tactics, etc. And so I just wanted to let you know there is a number. If you see some interference with elections, if you yourself experience interference with elections, 866-OUR-VOTE. That's 866-OUR-VOTE, OURVOTE. There's also a website where you can read more about it, but it's 866-687-8683. And there are other languages available as well: Spanish, English, Asian languages, and Arabic. You can contact this hotline this is the election protection hotline to look for help and assistance with this. Can put you in touch with lawyers, with folks who know the rules about elections in your location, etc. So if you're in line, you can stay in line and you can vote. If you're voting early and you know all of the rules there, if you're dropping off a ballot in a ballot box, basically anything you need help with, you can call 866-OUR-VOTE. You can also go to the website 866-OURVOTE.org and chat with them, or you can send a text message, and that will give you information about your state and other stuff that you might want to know. So yes, please, if you run into any issues or you just aren't sure, you can check out 866-OUR-VOTE for help on that process. But please go vote. It is an awesome thing to do, and you should, if you can.
Great resource, too.
Yes, absolutely. Their website has lots of information. Alrighty, folks, if you've got questions, if you've got project ideas, if you've got anything you want to send our way, stt@twit.tv. That STT stands for Smart Tech Today. We record this show live every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific. That is one way to catch the show, twit.tv/live. But the best way to get the show is to subscribe, because that means you're going to get it as soon as it's available, no matter the time, no matter the place. And you can head to twit.tv/STT. And there you will find links to subscribe to the show in its various formats: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, in audio and video formats, all there, all ready for you. And we'd love it if you did so. If folks want to follow you online and check out your awesome work, Matthew Cassinelli, where do they go to do that?
You can follow me on Twitter at Matt Cassinelli. That's CASSINELLI, and at MatthewCassinelli.com. My shortcuts catalog has up to 350 now for free and everything.
Nice.
So lots of fun to play around with. I was tweeting this morning, if you need a good distraction, and there's some fun shortcuts to mess around with.
Yeah, honestly, it can be a lot of fun to do. So
yeah, there's too much.
Cool.
So.
Let's see. Oh, and then if you want to follow me online, I'm at Mikah Sargent on pretty much all of the social media networks, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to all the various places I exist online. And yeah, I guess it's time to say good afternoon to your smart assistants.
Good afternoon and good luck.
Yes. Best of luck.